Hi, everybody. This is Gary Van Antwerp from Training Magazine Network. I would like to welcome you all to today's webinar, 5 Secrets to Leading from a Distance Strategically. And we have a great group of speakers here today from MOHR Retail. Michael Patrick, the founder and president of MOHR Retail. Mary Beth Garcia, VP of Client Solutions at MOHR. And also Christina Landis, the Director of Sales and Consulting at MOHR Retail. We will be turning things over to Michael and his team in just a few moments. I do have some other information to give you here, so I'll do that right now. The Insights widget is something we use in every one of our webinars, and we invite you to use it. You can launch it right now by just clicking on that link. Go ahead and click on the screen if you like, and that'll launch the widget. What it'll do is it'll pop up a small tool to enable you to enter all your insights and inspirations and learning that you gained from today's session. It'll be indexed to your profile in Training Mag Network, and it'll also print out on your certificate of your participation today. The way you do that is after, not before, but after you enter your insights. You can go up here and you will see this My Credits link appear only after you entered some. So if you print that, then you can send that off to SHRM or HRCI or anybody else that needs it to issue you certification or recertification. You can also see what everybody else learned during the session by clicking on See Other Insights. Now, of course, you're not going to see other people's insights right now, but people will be using this, I guarantee you, during today's session. So after the session, you'll be able to see maybe some of the people who picked up something you did not, or had a different take on it. So use the Insights widget, and I'll give you the link to that several times during the webinar today. Okay? We're glad to have you using it. I mentioned before the online learning conference is coming up. Here's the discount code TMNC. Use that to save $250. If you are going to join us in Chicago, keep in mind, though, that I may be able to tell you a way to do that for free, so you don't have to worry about $250. You can learn all about the OLC by going to onlinelearningconference.com, and that's where you can print the brochure and the schedule and see everything you need to know to join us in Chicago. It's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, as I mentioned, you can also go to the online learning conference for free. And I want to take just a moment here and ask those of you who did not take this poll earlier to let me know, do you know how you can get a free admission to one of the conferences, either the Online Learning Conference or to Training 2017? That's the one that'll be in San Diego. Do me a favor, take the poll real quickly. Yeah, thank you very much. We'll just spend a few seconds on this, and I appreciate it. We want to know how many of you need to know this information. I see a lot of you. So I'll tell you very quickly, all you have to do is upgrade your membership level to a higher level, and you'll either get greater discounts or you'll be able to get a free admission to the conference, which is normally about $1,200. I'll give you some more information about that and a link a little bit later on so you can see exactly how to do that. Thanks very much for taking the poll for me. I appreciate it. Now, in just a few seconds, we're going to turn things over to Michael and his team. I did want to let you know that you can get 8 training games when you also upgrade your membership as well. These are free training games that you can use in your organization. So if you upgrade. And we have a couple of excellent webinars coming up. Tomorrow, June 15th, we have Tom Mazzato with 7 ways to build a virtual training strategy. And then Thursday, we have Dr. Christine Lawther on evaluating training. This is a great session. You should join us for that for sure. We also have, for those of you who are involved in sales training, on June 16th, you can see Michael Limbach and David Yesford are back with 3 winning strategies to change the game. And June 21st, we have the wonderful Beverly Kay, who wrote the book on employee retention and hiring. This time the conversation is career conversations employees want. Great session, and Beverly is the doctor of this whole topic, so I hope you can join us for that. I mentioned the recording. We are recording today, and all you have to do to find the recording of today's session, this session right here, go to trainingmagnetwork.com. Just click on the button in the middle, and you'll see at the very top of the page, you'll see this recording posted tomorrow, and you'll see all the other recordings that are there. It's about 350 of them. While you're there, you might also explore the free white pages, and if you're interested in these webinars that we just talked about, click on the calendar free webinars button, and you'll be able to join, to register for any of those. So before we get started, I just want to thank MOHR Retail for joining our family of sponsors in helping us to present and make these wonderful speakers available today. MOHR develops and reinforces the critical people-to-people skills needed to achieve business goals and deliver results. So we encourage you to go visit www.mohrretail.com to learn more about how they might be able to help you. Thank you again, MOHR, for doing this. So now, today, I would like to, again, get started and turn things over to our excellent speakers for this session, 5 Secrets to Leading from a Distance Strategically. And again, welcome to Christina Landis and Mary Beth Garcia. And again, I want to welcome to Training Magazine Network, especially Michael Patrick. Michael.
Gary, thank you so much. Hello, everyone. It's great to be with you today. Thank you so much for joining us. We are thrilled to be able to share this research. I'm confident that it's going to be time well spent for everyone. Gary did a great job of introducing us. Some of you may not know MOHR. MOHR is actually an acronym. It stands for Management of Human Resources. So, as Gary said, we teach interpersonal skills that drive results. Now, we do that mostly as focused in the retail industry. But our institutional history and our personal experiences, myself, Mary Beth, and Christina, go way beyond retail. So we have worked in many different industries: telecommunications, pharmaceuticals, manufacturing, retail banking, restaurant, food service. So we represent a lot of industries with our experience. So again, even though our research and our primary focus about the research was in retail, I think what we learned in terms of leading at a distance is going to absolutely be relevant as for everyone as we go through the day. Let me tell you a little bit about how the next 45 minutes or so is going to go. I'm going to start by talking about the research, the general themes that we saw, some of the implications for that. And while I go through that, I'm also going to want to make sure that you use your chat to ask us questions and respond to things. We have a number of polls that we're going to put up for you. We'd love your feedback and your reaction to this. So I know that throughout the various presentations that I've got help coming with Mary Beth and Christina, they'll be looking to make sure that I answer questions as we go along, or if there are some key points that you're making as well, that we make sure that we point them out. Again, we expect this to be a very, very rich experience for everybody. Here are some details about the research. We have literally thousands of data points that we've been looking at. We did online surveys across the country. These are some of the positions that were represented: major retailers, people who manage a lot of people in a lot of different locations. And we were looking for some of the themes and implications to their responses. We also did ride-alongs where we were in cars, we listened to conference calls, we were with them and did one-on-one interviews. And MOHR is also a company that literally trains hundreds and hundreds of multi-unit managers every single year in some existing programs. So we also have that information to be able to help us out. The twin challenges, quite frankly, of leading at a distance are both the time and the geography, right? It creates a very special set of circumstances. There's a lot of training in general management skill or leadership skills for people who are able to see and hear the people that they work with. So motivation, inspiration, I think is a little easier and a little more clear cut. But when you're leading from a distance, you don't see people regularly, and there are there are some very specific challenges to that. It's also driven to a large extent by how much territory you're covering. And we talk to people who had stores in New York City, for example. They might have 15 or 16 that are on the corner a block or two away from each other. That's quite different than being in Nebraska or Alaska. Or we also talked to folks that were in parts of Canada who have hundreds, if not thousands, of miles between them and the locations that they're responsible for. We have a quick poll I want Gary to bring up here if you could. And just based on the experience in your own industry with your own multi-unit managers, what do you think is the ideal number of locations for people to really manage effectively? And I think the key word is effectively. We know that, again, we got time and distance, but how many do you think a multi-unit manager should really have and could do well with? So what's coming up here is the lion's share of people at this point are saying it's somewhere in the 5 to 8 range. Now again, I know that locations can be complex. Some can have multiple departments. If you're dealing in hospitals, etc., it's much more like a city that you're managing. So a smaller number makes sense. But the vast majority of you are saying that based on your experience, based on the people that are working with you, 5 to 8. Let me share with you some of the specifics that we got from the research. Thank you, Gary. This is what the retail district managers or territory managers were dealing with. The 5 to 8 certainly was a big chunk of what they did, about 28% of that. A fair percentage, more than that, were doing 8 to 12. What really struck me about the numbers was that many of the people that we were talking to in terms of leading from a distance, you see in the yellow there, it's nearly 30%. Of the respondents had 20 or more stores. So even if they were able to visit a location every single business day, you're at the most, you're there once a month. So you begin to see that, it's unlikely that you're going to see these locations, the leaders making a lot of decisions, whoever in charge of that location. There's a lot of performance decisions, a lot of customer decisions that are being made without a multi-unit manager's physically being there. Now, of course, they're communicating via email and text and other kinds of things. But I was curious about, when you think about the number of locations in that range, let's just take a look and use the chat for a minute to talk about what you think some of the implications of that are. So just give me a sense from your experience or your multi-unit manager's experience about what that mean for you when they're leading that wide range of locations here. Yeah, I mean, absolutely, Becca. The idea about quality gets impacted. Again, time zones, planning, you're spread too thin. Absolutely, absolutely. This idea of communication, we're going to talk very specifically about that. While we don't have physical presence, we are communicating more, but is it effective? Lisa, I think you're absolutely right. And we did hear that from location managers, that sometimes my boss forgets that I'm out here, or at least that's what it feels like, right? Technology, Jennifer, you're absolutely right. Probably 85% of the communication we found in the research was done via technology. So the questions become, how competent are people at using it, and are they using it the right way? Team, Kathy, you're absolutely right. Very tough. One of the biggest challenges that managers, multi-unit managers face is, how do I get everybody not only on the same page, but connected and feeling like they're doing well? Excellent. These are excellent comments, and you should continue to have them keep coming in here. Let me start by showing you what some of the areas were that we wanted to explore more fully in the research. These are 4 big questions. I would imagine that in your experience, or your multi-unit manager's experience, is that most multi-unit managers, like the ones we had in research or wrote along with, they thought they had more to do in a day than they had hours in the day. And I'm sure that's true for many of you. So how do they stay on track? This issue of planning and prioritizing, they're constantly having to choose. Another question was this idea of communication. It's coming up a lot in your chat here, team and synergy and the kinds of challenges in terms of communicating across time zones, etc. So we wanted to understand what they did well and how they met those challenges. 2 other questions were about, I know that you're spread out and you're leading from a distance, but the strategic element of leading from a distance really has to do with growing your teams to deal with new changes. And then lastly, just again, it's mentioned in the chat, how do you keep everybody motivated? Let me take a look here and just ask you. I mean, planning and prioritizing were a key part. Everybody has goals, right? We know that. Goals help us kind of focus on what's important to us. How many of you have promoted people from being responsible for one location to multiple, right? You look internally, that's not unusual. But the idea is that, are those people really being strategic in terms of how they're going from 1 to 8 locations? Or are they just working a lot harder rather than smarter? So one of the things that we saw was that the most effective multi-unit managers had what we refer to as anchor goals. These are overarching goals, and they really answered this question: what do I get paid to do? Now, at first glance, it may seem like a simple question, but it's powerful. And it was powerful for us in terms of the research and for the multi-unit managers that we were working with, because they said this question really keeps them focused, right? So the idea here is that if I have an anchor goal, there are a lot of activities I might do to move me towards that, but the anchor goal is one of the ways that I know that I'm doing the thing that at the end of the year or the season or the time period where I'm going to kind of look back and evaluate, I know that all the things I've done have been connected to the essential job that I have. Somebody's asking here about managing and leading. Richard, thank you for that. It's a combination, right? So when we look at the multi-unit management activities, we're also saying, look, there are certain management functions. Management for us, we define more as really being focused more on process or systems and performance, where leadership for us is defined more around how to look for potential and tap into that. So it's inspiration versus perspiration to a certain point. So managing and leading are both very important. The anchor goals are a way to help me figure out what I should spend time on and what I need to do that's going to matter most. One of the other issues here was the idea that multi-unit managers are constantly getting information. So being able to pick up and respond to cues is important. We talked about, as we saw it, was kind of the idea of a perishable moment was the idea that you can either respond and take advantage of that, or you can move on because you have so much other stuff on your plate. So you want to think about what kind of cues. The people who were really extraordinary in this, they were able to think about tone of voice, whether somebody put something off too much. Short emails. We often heard people were nervous when they got one-word answers back on email responses. It was a cue, and you're constantly, as a multi-unit manager, looking at, do I respond or not? Where else do insights come from about how people are feeling? What do you think? Use chat to share some of this with us. The perishable moments are important, but insights come from different kinds of cues. What else do you think? Where would I learn more about my team or what they might need if I'm not physically with them? I'm just reading a little bit here in terms of the cues. Lots of people are typing. Yeah, I mean, you can absolutely ask. So that's being skillful about that. Hearing from other people. It's a terrific, Brad Slav, excellent. So this idea of customers might give you feedback. Maybe other people that are also visiting the location. Absolutely, peers are a way to do that.
Assessment.
So again,
360 degree. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, this notion of one-on-one meetings with not just the head or of the location, but of a lot of people that are in there. And that's one of the things we saw, that in visits to a location, people wanted to make sure that I'm really spreading out some time for other folks here. Good, excellent, excellent. So this was the idea of anchor goal was kind of our first big factor. The second one was extraordinary multi-unit managers who were able to lead effectively from a distance were people who paid attention and really were proactive about trying to learn more before they ever showed up. So it's an important piece to be able to do. Now, I know this is true in retail, that continuous learning is important, and I also know that it's important for a lot of other industries, but I'd like to see your thoughts here about why, because this leads us to the other question in the research. Why is continuous learning important for leaders? Why can't we just kind of learn a whole bunch the first year and be happy with that? Yeah, Monica, absolutely. An enormous amount of change is going on here, constant change. So you can see that, you almost feel the barrage here. Yeah, being current, techniques, technology. There we go. Absolutely. So this idea that I can lead from a distance and not focus on strengthening skills is really not going to fly. Change is constant, as many of you are saying here. Patricia, you're absolutely right around general differences. Mike, the idea to be able to adapt. So this is part of what we were also looking at, is how much flexibility, how much ability to adapt did a multi-unit manager have. That was essential, because if somebody's been in a job for 10 years, one of the questions we would ask is, if you learn something in the first year, you just keep repeating that for 9 years. Well, no, there's so many other things that really drive growth and innovation. So skill building was a third factor that the research really showed, and that was that we cannot, as a leader, asking this question that's on the screen here, what's my team learn from me today that they didn't know before? One of the ways I add value, one of the ways I inspire, is to teach something. If you think about why people leave jobs, one of the things that we learned about turnover in this research on multi-unit management was that people leave often because they have plateaued, because they don't think there's any more to learn. So a multi-unit manager who understands that even if somebody's been with me for 10 or 15 or 20 years, the need to learn is significant, then they have that's a key to their success. Now, when you're teaching people new skills and you're introducing new concepts to stay current or ahead of the trend, here are some of the other things that you have to, that began to emerge, is that there's a big difference when people learn something and they either agree with you or they commit to it. What do you think the difference is between that? Again, chat would be an awesome way to just think about what's the difference for you between agreement and commitment. Right at the top there, Monica. Action, absolutely. Jackie, same thing. Good, right? Nadine, you're right. They're gonna practice with it. And yet, the average multi-unit managers that were part of the research, oftentimes when they were in conference calls or they were on visits, and they got people kind of nodding and saying, that's an interesting idea, or yeah, we should do more of that, or wow, that sounds like a fun thing, that's all agreement. Commitment is really having a bias towards action here. All right, so when we think about that bias, it was the fourth factor that kind of came together for us. That one of the things we saw as a differentiating factor between extraordinary and average multi-unit managers was this bias to act. And these are some of the things that we heard them say in a conversation, right? So what's the first thing you're going to do when I leave? When can I expect to see something? How are you going to get started? How are you going to involve the team? When should we see some impact? It's about action, right? That differentiates. Now, what we also learned is that this does two things. This bias towards action not only kind of moves the ball forward, but it does something else. And what do you think that was? What do you think that was? It not only moves the ball forward, but what else does it do when you ask these kinds of questions? Aha! Yeah. Megan, Colleen, you got it. Yeah, it could make people nervous, but it is holding them accountable. Absolutely. Here's what you learn. You learn the level of commitment when you ask these kinds of questions. So what we saw was back to that insight point where multi-unit managers who would ask, what's the first thing you're going to do? And the person at the location says, well, I've got a lot going on this week. We've got multiple priorities. I've got somebody out sick or somebody's going to take vacation. I'm not sure. When you get that, that's a cue that says they're hesitating, right? So it begins to make you, it gives you a perishable moment to say, look, I'm not going to get great results from this. So what they were able to do is stop at that moment and reflect that. We talked a little bit about listening a few minutes ago. Several people had put it on there. So this idea that I have to stop and say, you seem hesitant about taking this on. You're unsure that you're going to be able to get to this now. What's getting in the way, right? Let's talk about the importance of moving forward here. So you're right. I'm going to build this, what we've been talking about. We've titled it Achievement Cycle because it is something that looks at the factors and how they tie together. So this notion that, this doesn't want to build for me, but I think we're going to, the achievement cycle, I'm just going to go back to this slide. It should have 4 arrows here, but the very top one was anchor goals. The next one was insight. The third one was building skills. And the fourth was what we just talked about here, which was bias towards action. Let me ask this question. Gary, I think actually you have 2 polls here. I'm going to ask you, when you think about being focused on big goals, being focused on, insight, skills, or the last one of bias towards action. Gary, do we have the other one there? I just can't see it. That's what it is, probably. There it is. Okay. Yeah, so what gets the most attention? And then we also have a poll up here that says, which of those 4 gets the least? So take a minute and give me your vote on both of those. All right, awesome. Well, let's take a look at most. So goals. I mean, it's not a surprise that we all know that we all have goals, and that gives us our targets, etc. The least attention is insight. So let's look at what the implication of that. What might that mean? If you have a multi-unit management group that really is good about, and they get how important having a target is, but at the same time they don't pay attention to the cues, what do you think those implications are for leading and creating the kind of performance that you might want? Some folks are digesting that and typing away here. I'm curious to know your reaction, and then I'll share mine with you. Yeah, I mean, in the worst case scenario, Sharon, I think you're right. I mean, that you're not going to be successful, you'll fail. Yeah, the lack of understanding is probably going to be a part of that. Could be a loss of interest when there's ambiguity, right? Motivation is also going to be a part of that. So when I think about the most attention on goals and the least attention on insights, we say, are we really learning about what our teams need? So they would struggle to build better teams or to know what inspires. We do a lot of work with DISC and personal style, that helps with insight as well. So we often talk about during sessions this notion of, look, you can be who you are, but if you're going to ignore what you know, what the insight is about other people, you're probably not going to be able to flex. You're probably not going to be able to adapt to the changing environment in quite the way that you wanted to. Excellent. And yeah, performance, feeling discontent. You begin to see the morale issues. And when you layer that on top of the fact that I'm not seeing you because I have so many locations to be responsible for, then you begin to feel like, wow, I don't feel connected and I don't even know whether they're here. So you begin to see that very, very tough to get top performance and very difficult to position yourself strategically as a leader. There were in addition to those 4 factors that that came out in what we call the achievement cycle, as we read between the lines, we found 5 secrets kind of emerge from that research. We've talked about the research in terms of the themes and implications. I'm going to kick this off with the first one, and then Christina and Mary Beth are going to join us a little bit here and talk about the other ones. One of the first things we know about the research is that good, the build works, that's nice. The very first thing that we saw that was an underlying principle and something of a secret, because it may at first blush seem fairly obvious, but what we heard from the managers was that I need to be on purpose. I have too many things going on. I have to think very specifically about what I'm trying to create. If I'm going to give feedback to somebody, I could just tell them what's right or wrong about a performance or an issue. But if my intention is to make them a leader within my territory, then I have to do something else. So the top performing multi-unit managers never got on a conference call or never went on a visit without having a purpose before they communicated. And they also understand that leading from a distance means that your actions are going to have a wider ripple effect. So you want to be thoughtful about, before I show up, before I get people on a call or ask for commitments, I want to be absolutely clear about what we're trying to do here. So what you say and do matters a lot more, and so starting with the end in mind was a key part of success here. Christina, would you share with us, there were a couple of more that we were going to talk about here, I think.
Michael, I'm going to go ahead for Christina. She's having some audio problems here. So
awesome.
Yes, so this is Mary Beth, and the next factor that we found was preparing to play multiple roles, and that really had to do with who you were leading. What were the people that you were going to visit, the people that you were a direct supervisor for? What were their needs? And so the adaptability was really key for top performing multi-unit managers. That it wasn't a one-size-fits-all approach to their leadership style. The other is, what role do I have to play based on their needs? So do I have to be a teacher? This is somebody that's maybe newer in their role, that needs a lot more one-on-one. Do I need to play that role? Or do I need to be a coach? A coach is really appropriate for someone that's been in the job a little bit and are not doing everything correctly and all up to the key performance indicators top level, but they are doing well and they've got that experience. So coaching them, asking a lot more questions versus telling them, and the teacher is going to be important. And then most important, when you've got someone that experience, has proven track record, good results and success, mentoring them, being able to let them tell you more, guide you on those visits, tell you how they are managing that location or their project or their business virtually that's going on, and you being able to advise and counsel them. And the last one is champion. And that's really for, they're ready to be promoted. They have proven track record, and you really do want to get to promote them internally in your organization, really start championing them, even externally for the organization, not for other organizations, but in the communities they served and the other customer base and vendors that they might deal with, that you really are championing this person really to set them up for the next level of success.
Mary Beth, let me jump in here real quickly before you go to this next secret. One of the things that we saw was that average multi-unit managers would often fall into one of these four roles and get stuck, and that's all they would do. So visit after visit or conference call after conference call or conversation was all about coaching because they thought they were a good coach. So you can begin to see what some of the pitfalls would be is if I don't play all four and have some ability in all four, then I'm probably missing a fairly significant portion of folks that really have a need that I'm not able to address. I think Christina's back. I'm not sure.
No.
Apparently not. All right, keep going.
And absolutely, and just the fact that if you went in as a teacher all the time, you're always telling them what to do, well, that person that's ready to be mentored is really frustrated, and that's where you can have some turnover. So good point, Michael. Thank you for clarifying that. The third secret that we found was shaping expectations around technology. I mean, what would we do without technology, right? And sometimes when it works, it's a good thing, right? When it doesn't work, as we're experiencing for a few minutes, poor Christina will tell you, it's not the best thing. But always, when you are dealing with leading from a distance, we all have to rely on the technology. We need to use it a little bit more strategically. And what we mean by that is whether it's conference calls, voicemail, text, whatever way we're doing emails, which is widely popular, is how do we really reach them and do it strategically, meaning also when we are actually responding, what's the time that we need to take to do that, but also more importantly is what's appropriate for the type of response that your people need. So if they're asking for something, do you really need to pick up the phone and talk to them? Is it something that you can cover on your next visit to the store? Is it, or to the location that you have? Really making sure you're using a technology to see what's going to be best for that person. So going back to what do they need, what are their needs, is really coming into play as well. And reinforcing, the same thing, that you're leading through others, that shadow of your leadership, that they respond to their teams. We all know that everybody's gone crazy with texting now. We've kind of an email, and we've kind of taken that human element out of that. So really shaping that expectation around that sometimes it's totally appropriate to text, to email, to have a conference call to explain something. Sometimes it's going to be much better face-to-face. Michael, do you have
Mary Beth, real quick. Yeah, real quick. Let's use chat here. I'm assuming that many of us in the webinar have gotten a message from someone that says, call me, or text me, or email me, right, without any detail. If you were going to pick up the phone, or you were going to text somebody back that just said, call me, or text me, what do you shape? What do you shape, do you think? Just use chat to just share what your thoughts are. Yeah, it does drive you crazy. Yeah, there we go. There we go. There could be some fear about that, absolutely. So if somebody sends you a message that's quite vague and you react, you're actually shaping something, right? What are you shaping there? Yeah, good. There's no context. You're right. How am I going to plan my day? How do I know how urgent it is, right? So if what Mary Beth is talking about here that's critical for being more thoughtful about technology is to say that if you are going to respond to that, you will shape or reinforce that you are on a short leash with them and that you'll do whatever you need them to do, even without details. So one of the ways that we saw some of the extraordinary folks deal with this is to say to the person, look, I've got a lot of things going on during my day. When you ask me to call you or text you without detail, I have no way to prioritize that. If you do it again, I'll delete the message. It sounds harsh, but I mean, we did hear people say, I need people to understand and to shape some of the expectation about how we use technology, whether I can respond or not. We also had somebody on one of the drive-alongs that said, I've changed my auto signature to make sure that you say that if you're calling about a problem, I'll need 2 of your ideas before I talk to you. So it's very important about shaping ownership and accountability again. Good. Thanks, Mary Beth. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And I'm sorry, Michael, it's Christina. I actually got back on, if you can hear me.
Hey,
but one thing, thank you, Mary Beth, but one thing, too, I wanted to mention was we do have the Technology Quick Guide that's available on the registration page to download as far as, the pitfalls and pointers for using various forms of technology.
Excellent. Thank you.
Great. Had that to the notes, so that's great. And that's, and the proverbial, the text that we all get, can you talk now, right? So what's appropriate. Okay. And then the 4th secret that we have is maximizing the in-person time. And that's top-performing multi-unit managers. Use that in-person time strategically to plan those visits. When, what do you want to accomplish there at a live visit that you can't accomplish on the phone or a conference call? It's things like modeling, being able to show the behaviors that you're telling them about, model those behaviors in leadership for them. Being able to observe not only your leaders at that unit or location, but observe everyone. Who reports to them, the rest of the staff and the team. You can get a good idea of what's going on in the culture, what's going on to motivate that team. The other is, just the quality of that real-time feedback that's extremely important that you have, that you're able to give them feedback right there in the moment, real time. And last is just what we talked about, the same thing. Coaching in the moment is very, very important so that, it's much more real time. It's you're observing those skills and being able to address that. I mean, we all know the power of being present. And when you have that opportunity to be present, both mentally and physically, it really magnifies that opportunity to influence and impact behavior. Most of us, the lion's share of our communication to our virtual locations is not in person. It is that communication through voicemail, email, telephone, and text. So being in that actual location that's really a perishable moment, a visit, where you have the most opportunity to impact the team. You get a better sense of the message that you are sending with expectations. How are they receiving it? How are they reacting it? How did they translate that? I think that's probably one of the biggest frustrations is, gee, I told them that. It was in an email. I went to the location. It's not being done. There's a lot that gets lost in interpretation. So it's really that great opportunity to really be there and be present with them, to coach and coach and reinforce in real-time behaviors, strengthen that manager, because that's really where you can take them from that opportunity where they are in that learning mode to really exhibiting and excelling in their behaviors. So the secret is really being intentional. What can I teach them in person that I can't do on phone, conference call, or email? What's that quality time that I can spend, people? And I'm going to ask Christine first if you want to add anything, since I took your tips there. Christina or Michael, do you want to add before we go to the final secret?
Yeah, one quick thing I'd say is that we frequently see that people have audits and forms that they go in that kind of police a location. So you have to ask yourself the question as a multi-unit manager, am I auditing, or is this an audit moment, or is this a development time? And somebody was saying here, Tom, talking about choosing times to communicate is an important piece. What Mary Beth is talking about here is that make sure you're intentional about what you are going to do. Have a plan for the in-person time that's different than windshield or airport time in terms of communicating virtually. This in-person time has the power to be very impactful. So choose, are you auditing or developing?
Absolutely. And that's a key point, is this is when you have the best opportunity to train and develop them. And they really, from the surveys that we have and from the multi-unit leaders, they really look forward to that time and they cherish that time. So when you go there unannounced versus announced, we understand there's a time and a purpose for that. But if you make most of your visits unannounced, it really does rob them from that development, because they're not prepared. They don't have the time or maybe the staff to spend with you to get their development. And that's something that's critical for them to be able to grow with the career. And the last secret that we found was building relationships before you need them. And this really is more about influencing internal partners as much as it is influencing the people that work with you all the time. All the top performing multi-unit leaders found that they really, if they had partnerships in their corporate office or in the field, even people that didn't have the direct reporting orders that they did, worked for another boss, forging those relationships with key partners was really key in helping them get their job done. Not only does they get their feedback, but also insights to keep, really getting better at what they did. So in between, the multi-managers are kind of those in-between middle managers, even though sometimes there's an additional layer or authority that's around them. They really need advice and assistance from people who don't report to them so that they can influence others in the organization who really don't have authority but can really help them do their jobs better. They're really what we call key partners, and that was very, very important in the research that we had. Partners that could share other priorities for the corporate. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking from a chat standpoint, I'd love to hear from folks here. I know multi-unit managers have direct reporting relationships, but what Mary Beth is talking about is relationships with others that might influence them. Can you just quickly chat with us about who are some of the other partners that multi-unit managers have to influence, even though they don't report to them? Who are some people within your organizations that multi-unit managers need to nudge a little bit or get agreement from or some support from, even though they don't report to them and they may not have as much direct supervisor relationship? Yeah, I mean, you begin to see the teams that have to be built here, from HR, real estate, the IT. This is exactly the part that Mary Beth is talking about here, is that you typically, when you're going to these people, you're going to them because you have a problem and you need them. So Mary Beth's point is, don't go when you have a problem, go before. Give them updates, get the relationship strengthened so that when you have something that you need to ask, they at least remember who you are and they know you more than just the person that brings the problems. That was a key insight and secret that that people shared with us.
Absolutely.
Sorry, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And having that rapport with an internal partner, it doesn't always mean that you're going to agree. It doesn't always mean you're going to get your way, but it does mean that they have a better understanding of what the challenges you're facing, what's the job you have to do, and you have a better understanding of some of the challenges you weren't aware. We hear that all the time, and I'm seeing a lot. It's like, well, that's IT, or that's HR, that's how they are. Really cutting down those silos of the we's and the they's in the organization is extremely important, and working together collaboratively, either now or in the future. But just having that better understanding of each other's roles, because you all work for the same company, but you all work for different departments, have different supervisors, and so sometimes things get done differently. But having that commonality, that common goal, and understanding what you both have to do will strengthen it. And just you being able to build that relationship helps them come to you, maybe give you some heads up on some things that might be happening down the road that might impact their job, your job, and just having that relationship is extremely important. The same rules go to external community and business partners as well, in your community with real estate, some of the other developers and vendors that you deal with too. Being a good partner with them helps them think of you first. And that's what you really want to do, is be able to have somebody on your side to be really thinking about your best interests in your teams as well. So that is what we found, and that's the 5 secrets from leading from a difference. These are the top secrets and best practices, if you will, that we discovered from some of the most effective multi-unit leaders. We found that these are the practices that were the top 5 that they practiced every day to drive the best performance and results from their teams. So what we would like to know is, with those 5, is we're going to do a poll. Which of those 5 secrets that we've just explained are the most important to your multi-unit leaders? And we've got that poll displayed up there now, so let's poll the group. Appreciate your feedback the entire webinar. You guys have been very active, and all the participants have. And we appreciate your feedback on this question of which 5 secrets are most important to your multi-unit leaders within your organization.
Yeah, the votes are coming in here, not surprising, around multiple roles, people being facile with that. Do they even know what those roles are? Do they know what the different strategies are? That's all some of the training that can be provided. Being intentional is a big part of that. And then rounding out third there in terms of really having a plan for how I use in-person time. Mary Beth, thank you very much. Thanks, Christina, as well. Other last thoughts before I continue?
No, I think we're ready, and we are we're wrapping up our time, so.
Yeah. Well, a few more things to talk about here in terms of your own multi-unit leaders. At MOHR Retail, we've been teaching multi-unit management for a long time, done, I think, a very effective job with the current training. What we just shared with you is going to start being integrated into what we train. But the idea that in a classroom, we want to focus on things that are more meaningful for multi-unit leaders. We want to make sure that it's something that appeals to them, not only from a skill standpoint and an insight standpoint, but then an action standpoint. So the lion's share of our work in classroom is really done with multi-unit managers, is really done around practicing very specific situations, about strengthening other leaders, about playing those multiple roles, and really gives them an opportunity to do a lot of rehearsal. What we also know, though, is it's not enough to teach people about something. That's kind of a kickoff, but really looking about how do you turn learning into behavior change. You have multi-unit managers. Usually multi-unit leaders are people out that have been with the organization for 5 or 10 years or even more. So so they have a lot of experience, they're very seasoned, and changing their behavior is even more challenging. So how do we do that? In addition to being able to practice realistic scenarios, etc., we think about how to keep the learning going way beyond classroom. We have a partner, you may have heard of them, they're Exonify. They have an amazing web-based platform that we use. It's mobile enabled, which has a lot of easy access. So one of the things we do is provide micro-learning and daily refreshers and reminders. Gamification they're doing a fair amount of brain science research at Exonify about gamification and why it's so important to increase engagement. And we also use a lot of competition. Again, we're focused primarily on retail, but a lot of other industries, I think, would appreciate kind of reward points and various ways to keep people fully engaged. We also want to make sure that we remind you that whatever you did to help multi-unit leaders use some of these ideas, we know that it's critically important that their boss and their boss's boss play a role here. Just looking here, collaboration, us versus them, excellent, thank you. Daily reminders, Sarah, it's important because the water comes back over your head and they're on to their next fire. So the idea here is that we want to keep this as fresh as we can. Before we continue, we do want to get some more feedback. Your feedback in terms of the chat has been amazing. Can you give us some feedback about overall how you thought we did today, and was the time well spent? Do you think it was worthwhile? I appreciate the feedback from the group. I appreciate the input. There are a number of people agreeing with each other and whatnot. So thank you so much for that. There is also, thank you for doing that. Sorry, Gary, you want to grab that poll? If there were other questions or other comments, if you are taking a look at this and it's after it's taken place, and you're listening to the recording and you have questions, you can certainly go to info@mohrretail.com. We'd appreciate you being able to do that. Our work, as we say, we work primarily in retail, but when we're working with other industries, we create fully customized programs that use these principles and research. So if that would be of interest, that could be something that you might want to check with us on. Also, in light of what I was saying about earlier in terms of turning making learning turn into behavior change, here are some strategies that we've come up with. You can download it at the link that you see there. And just we have time, so I just want to open up the chat again to say what other questions can we answer for you, either about the research or the work that we do, and we'd be happy to take as many of those as time will allow, and the rest we'll get back to you. Appreciate that.
Sherry's asking for the link on the previous slide.
Say it again.
Sherry is asking for the link that was on the previous slide.
There we go. Good. Sorry about that. Yes, I appreciate your feedback, Megan. I assume everyone knows how to read, so we want to use slides that maybe add a little more value there. But thank you for that. Great. Good. Yep, there's the link. Thank you. You can download it there, Bruce. Thank you. You provided that. I appreciate that. Good. Excellent. Other thoughts or questions about leading from a distance? Looks like it was a valuable time, so like we appreciate
Craig's having an issue downloading the ebook as well.
I think it's too many people at the same time, because I just tested it. It works fine. So Craig, just try it a little bit later. And here it is again.
There we go. Good. Thank you so much, Gary. I appreciate that. Good. All right. So it looks like we are, Gary, I think we're ready for you. Thank you for your coordination today. I just want to say we really appreciate Training Magazine and all the support that they've given us for this day. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. We appreciate this so much. It's really been a wonderful job and a great session. I have to put it up there with Cassie's after I went on earlier about that. You're going to be right up there in the top 2 or 3 that we've done so far this year. Really great insights for retail. Having spent about 30 years in big box retail myself, and part of it having to manage multiple locations, I can say I wish I had some of this advice back then. I do want to encourage people to answer questions in the chat, or pardon me, post your questions in the chat. We did have one from Tom earlier. He was asking, he was saying, you know, how this is a kind of a struggle to be doing this when there's so much time spent communicating and team building. How do I codify and qualify my own time? And do you have any comments on that, Michael or Mary Beth? Or Christina?
It's a great question, and the fact is I think we'd start with anchor goals and that question about what do I get paid to do. Take a breath and think about that, because the fact of the matter is you'll always have more to do than you can do in a day or the number of hours you have. So one of the things we found was that when people could get an anchor that might take you a year to accomplish, but a longer period of time, don't focus on things that are weekly or quarterly goals, but think about something that anchors the activities, all the activities I might have. Is it to have a customer experience be a particular way? Is it a kind of branding piece? Is it an operational excellence? What's one big picture goal that I might work towards that would have a lot of activities? It gives you some breath, and it also allows you to edit out some of the things, because you can look at what you're doing and say, does that really move me toward what I agreed was my anchor goal? I hope that helps. Good, thank you. Mary Beth or Christina?
No, I'd say absolutely. And one of the things about the biggest challenge we've found and we know is being in a multi-unit leader and leading from the distance is the fires that pop up. There's something that takes you off plan. You make a plan for the day, and then you have to take a detour. You have to go somewhere. You have to call. You're held up. And I think that having those overarching goals and having that anchor goal, we found that if they just keep focusing on, okay, what's most important to achieving these overall goals, and helping them prioritize was very, very helpful, just to keep them back on track, because it's so easy to get pulled in different directions when you are managing people that they all have specific needs, and they're all not in front of you right now, so they're all trying to vie for your attention at the same time sometimes.
Great, I appreciate that. Vivian, I want to
another
respond to
question from Vivian.
Yeah, we
yes,
Yes.
I love that, sure. You know, the idea here, what perishable moments means to us is what we saw in the research was that we'd be out there and there would be a moment where someone has gotten a cue. It could be hesitation or procrastination or some kind of emotional response. And what the multi-unit manager has to decide is this moment something that's going to have some impact? Because if it is, no matter what else I'm working on, this person is giving me a cue that they need something from me. And so being able to say, look, I'm on my way to the airport. I got 15 minutes. If we can't solve it, at least we can get started. Part of what we saw over and over again were the more extraordinarily accomplished and effective multi-unit leaders were able to say, I don't want to lose this moment. I know that I'm busy. I know that they're busy, but there's a reason why people have either hesitated or expressed some frustration, and I'm going to stay with that person until I can kind of understand what the issue is. That's the perishable moment. Yes, thank you. Hopefully that's helpful. Good. Other questions here?
And so, Michael, and I was going to say we're just about out of time. If you have any final thoughts that you want to wrap up with, maybe we could go now, and if we get any more questions, then we could address them if there's time.
Good. As I said at the beginning of this, MOHR has been doing this for more than 4 decades, so teaching interpersonal skills that drive results is a key part for us. The research is the beginning point for us. We incorporate much of this into the training. We would be delighted to talk more with you and your companies and to work with you to help strengthen not only multi-unit managers, but in other areas of your business where interpersonal skills play a key role. Thank you so much for being with us today. We learned a lot from you, and hopefully you learned a lot from us. Look forward to being in touch. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you again, Michael, Mary Beth, Christina. We really appreciate it. And thank you again, MOHR Retail, for making this session possible. We hope everybody will go to mohrretail.com, where you can learn more about how MOHR might be able to help you. I'll put that link in the chat. And again, the recording will be available tomorrow by going to the homepage at Training Magazine Network. So thanks again, everybody, for coming. We've enjoyed having you here and your great participation, and we look forward to seeing you again, hopefully tomorrow. And Michael, Mary Beth, and Christina, take care, and thanks again so much for doing this.
Thanks, Gary.